My name is Kathleen Wilson, and I work as a nurse at St. Mary's Children's Hospital. The children tell me I look like a doll because of my small stature and shoulder-length brown hair. Each day fills me with joy because I find solace in their smiling faces. I married my husband, Michael, 7 years ago. He works as a middle manager at an IT company and always tries to make the most of his free time to be with the family. He's a very noble person, although sometimes his indecisiveness worries me, especially when he lets himself be influenced by his mother, Patricia. Even so, his genuine personality is endearing to me. We have an 8-year-old daughter named Emma. She's in 2nd grade and very popular in her class thanks to her bright and sweet personality. She has a special charisma that makes it easy for her to make friends. Her dream is to become an artist, and one of our weekend routines is to go out together to buy art supplies for her drawings. Her serious expression when she paints makes her look like a real artist. Lately, she's passionate about watercolors, and has even made paintings that are now displayed in the pediatric ward of the hospital. My mother-in-law, Patricia, is a former high school teacher who now has a lot of influence in the Women's Association at the church. She always looks elegant in her classic Chanel suits. Although she appears kind to me, I sometimes notice a glint in her eye that seems to say, "You're not good enough for my son." That expression becomes even colder when the topic of my profession comes up. On the other hand, my father-in-law, George, is a lawyer and has a fair and rational personality. For him, family harmony is the most important thing. Lately, he seems to have some doubts about Patricia's behavior, although he never expresses them openly. However, his gaze always reflects concern for our family, which fills my heart. And then there's my sister-in-law, Melissa, Patricia's biological daughter and a full-time homemaker. She leads a comfortable married life and is very active on social media as an influencer. As a mother of 3, she constantly shares her perfect family life online. She's undoubtedly Patricia's pride and joy. I'm often compared to her, as if we were polar opposites. Our family gets together once a month for Sunday brunch after church. Every time we go, Emma runs to cling to her grandmother, Patricia. Patricia always shows kindness to her granddaughter. The scene in the Newberry Street Cafe, where she sweetly praised Emma's drawings, seemed like the perfect image of an ideal family relationship. Patricia, who lives in the exclusive Beacon Hill neighborhood of Boston, is always aware of her reputation. She uploads photos of vacations with Melissa's family to her social media and shares detailed reports of her church activities. Curiously, photos with our family rarely appear. Sometimes this careful selection made me feel uncomfortable. Despite these small details, our life in Back Bay continued peacefully. We spent weekends baking cookies and doing crafts with Emma. Michael, despite being tired from work, always treasured family time. On leisurely mornings, we would go to the farmer's market to buy fresh vegetables, and in the evenings, the 3 of us would enjoy homemade pizza while watching movies. Those small everyday moments were our greatest happiness. "Mommy, does this dress really suit me?" Emma asked, spinning anxiously in front of the mirror. The pink ruffles floated in the air like flower petals. The dress, a special birthday gift chosen by Patricia, was any 8-year-old girl's dream. "It's beautiful, honey. You look like a princess." I stood behind her and carefully began to curl her brown hair. Normally, she wore it in a simple ponytail, but today was a special day. I had even bought some new heart-shaped hair clips to complete her birthday look. "Daddy, are you ready with the camera?" Emma asked. Michael looked up from adjusting the camera in the living room. Batteries fully charged, ready to capture every moment of our star today. There were still 2 hours until our reservation at Bella Vista, the Italian restaurant on the top floor of the Prudential Center. With its panoramic view of Boston, it had been Patricia's choice. Emma had proudly told her friends at school about it. "Do you think Grandma is getting ready yet?" Emma murmured, looking out the window. "I'm sure she is," I replied with a smile. Melissa's children would also be attending. Unusually, Patricia had been excited about planning this celebration. "Let's all celebrate together," she had said, taking charge of all the reservations and arrangements. Normally, she only went all out for Melissa's children's birthdays, but this time was different. I was glad to see this change. "Shall we go?" Michael asked from the doorway. Emma and I finished getting ready. We put on our new shoes and I grabbed my favorite bag. The birthday presents were already at the restaurant, sent under Patricia's supervision. Everything from the cake to the flowers was arranged in detail. Boston in spring had an elegant atmosphere. Cherry blossoms decorated the streets, and a light breeze blew gently. Emma looked out the car window with growing excitement for her birthday party. "Look, I can see the Prudential Center," she said enthusiastically. The restaurant on the top floor of the skyscraper offered spectacular views all the way to Boston Harbor. We left the car in the valet parking and entered the elevator. Emma, slightly nervous, took my hand tightly. "Your name for the reservation, please." Upon reaching the top floor, the restaurant receptionist greeted us with a cordial smile. "Reservation under Patricia Wilson for 6 people at 6. She carefully checked the reservation list, but her expression turned slightly confused. "I'm sorry, but I can't find that name on today's list." I felt my heart stop for a moment. "Please allow me to check again." Michael took out his phone and started calling Patricia. There was no answer. "Mommy, why aren't Grandma and the others here?" Emma asked, looking at me anxiously. 15 minutes passed. The restaurant staff, apologizing, offered us seats in the lobby. The ruffles on Emma's dress seemed to wilt little by little. 30 minutes later, we finally managed to get in touch with Patricia. When her voice came through the speakerphone, it had a strangely cheerful tone. "Oh, was it today?" she said with a slight laugh. Waves and lively party music could be heard in the background. "Patricia, what's going on?" I asked, feeling my voice tremble. Emma gripped my skirt tightly. "I'm so sorry. We're on a Caribbean cruise with Melissa's family. It's a beautiful party on the deck. Melissa's kids are having a wonderful time." Tears started running down Emma's cheeks, falling on the white-tiled floor. "Don't call back. International calls are expensive. See you later," Patricia added, letting out another light laugh before hanging up. Michael's face turned pale. I took a deep breath and, as calmly as possible, said, "I understand. From now on, let's live as strangers." I hung up. A heavy silence fell over the restaurant lobby. Emma was still crying, trying to hold back the sobs, but her small shoulders were shaking uncontrollably. I felt something break inside me at that moment. The restaurant manager approached with a warm look and a kind voice. "We have prepared a special table for you. Would you allow us to help celebrate your daughter's birthday?" He led us to a beautiful table by the window with the best view in the place. Thanks to his thoughtful gesture, they would even serve the cake we had ordered. Although Emma still sobbed occasionally, she gradually began to lift her face. Michael gently stroked her hair. "Mommy and Daddy are here with you, my love. Let's make this a special day just for the 3 of us." Seated at the table, the waiter lit the candles on the cake. The flames flickered, reflecting in Emma's eyes. That night, we decided to create new birthday memories, just the 3 of us. As I made that resolution, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Patricia. I deleted it without opening it. 3 days later, a single photo posted on Melissa's Instagram began to cause a stir. On the deck of a luxury cruise ship, Patricia smiled as she raised a glass of champagne. The photo was published that same night. In the comments section, members of the Church Women's Association praised the image. "What a beautiful family vacation. Melissa's children have grown so much." But among the compliments, there was one comment that changed everything. "Patricia, wasn't it Emma's birthday today?" In the ship's cybercafe, Melissa saw the post. Her expression froze. Emma's 8th birthday, the special day of Kathleen's only daughter, the girl she had always considered like a sister, the celebration her mother had promised. Melissa stood up abruptly. "I need to talk to Mom." She ran through the corridors of the cruise ship. In the ship's luxurious bar, Patricia laughed as she chatted with new acquaintances. "Mom, what happened to Emma's birthday party?" Patricia's smile faded for a moment. Oh, them. Kathleen will understand. We had more important plans." Melissa felt a chill. "More important plans?" Her voice trembled. "More important than purposely ruining an 8-year-old's birthday?" Other passengers began to notice the scene. "Melissa, this is a public place," Patricia warned in a low voice. "Think of appearances." Appearances. Melissa felt her eyes fill with tears. "Mom, you hurt Emma badly and she's like my sister. I can't forgive you for this." Her voice resonated on the deck. I don't want you to see my children again. I don't want them to have a grandmother like that. Melissa's words, along with the videos recorded by passengers, began to circulate on social media and within the Boston church community. Patricia's reputation plummeted overnight. After Sunday service, no one approached her usual seat. Days later, she was asked to voluntarily resign from her positions in the Women's Association. But the final blow came from her own home. In the study of her Beacon Hill mansion, her husband George stood up with a hard expression. In 30 years of marriage, I've never been so disappointed. Outside, the early summer rain fell silently. Patricia tried to compose herself. It was just a joke. You're exaggerating. George let out a heavy sigh. A joke. His voice boomed in the room. You call deliberately crushing the heart of an 8-year-old girl a joke? On the desk was a pile of divorce papers prepared by George's lawyer colleagues. Patricia froze. George, you must be joking. Her voice rose, almost desperate. Think of our social standing. That's precisely the problem, George replied sharply. That's precisely the problem. George stood up, his gaze cold and hard. You've become so obsessed with the opinions of others that you've lost sight of what truly matters. The rain beat harder against the windows. If you don't apologize, sign these papers. The division of assets won't be unfavorable to you. The blood drained from Patricia's face. Divorce. Division of assets. Her position in the church. Her reputation in society. Everything was crumbling. The cruise was forced to return to port earlier than planned. Upon returning home, Patricia found cold stares and evasive glances. Her former friends began to avoid her. Melissa's final message was short and clear. Mom, your actions betrayed our whole family. Even I, your own daughter, can no longer trust you. Please reflect deeply on this. In a room in the mansion, Patricia finally understood the weight of her actions. A life dedicated to pursuing perfection, a family love distorted by her need for control, and an irreversible mistake. With trembling fingers, she held a pen and began to write a letter. Every morning, letters from Patricia arrived in our mailbox. Apologies written in careful calligraphy on white, expensive paper. Sometimes they came with packages from luxury brands or with Emma's favorite art supplies. But no letter was opened. They were all returned. We even politely declined attempts at in-person delivery. On Emma's desk, unfinished drawings piled up. The bright colors that once filled her illustrations had disappeared, replaced by a black and white world. The registration form for the school art contest was already torn and crumpled in the trash. As her mother, I could feel the profound change in my daughter's heart. I don't want to see Grandma anymore, Emma whispered one night as I hugged her in bed. I gently stroked her back, feeling her small shoulders tremble. I found myself in an almost prayerful state. No one is going to force you, my love. Not until you're ready. Emma nodded slightly. It's okay. Mommy and Daddy are here with you. The next morning, while working in the pediatric ward of St. Mary's Hospital, I received a call from reception. Patricia is here. She's brought a large bouquet. The sweet scent of Casablanca lilies almost reached the ward. I took a breath. I'm sorry, but please leave. At my words, Patricia nodded with tears in her eyes. She looked unrecognizable. She wasn't the haughty and proud woman from before. She no longer wore her expensive Chanel suit but a simple dress. Her always perfect hairstyle was slightly disheveled. The dark circles under her eyes spoke of a deep weariness. Kathleen, just once, let me see Emma. Her voice had no trace of her former arrogance, but I only shook my head. Not now. My priority is still protecting Emma's heart. A few days later, Michael received a call from my father. I want a family meeting. George's voice had regained its former lawyerly firmness. The place was set. The conference room of his law firm. Only adults were summoned. Emma would not attend. We sat in silence around the huge mahogany table. Outside, among the skyscrapers of Boston, the early summer sunlight streamed in, contrasting with the tension in the room. Today I want Patricia to speak, George announced, marking the start of the meeting. Melissa was present but avoided looking at her mother. On the table, her phone rested silently, all posts deleted. Patricia held a script with trembling hands, but she didn't read it. She took a deep breath and for the first time began to speak with a genuine expression of regret. I wanted to be a perfect mother. The air in the room froze. Michael leaned slightly towards Melissa. I wanted to give them a carefree life, to have everything anyone would envy. She paused. But that obsession distorted everything. My values, my beliefs, my relationships. I based everything on the opinions of others. Her voice cracked. George silently offered her a glass of water. Patricia accepted it with a slight nod and then looked at me. Kathleen, I resented you. Michael squeezed my hand. Your work as a nurse didn't fit my ideals. I thought it wasn't enough. But that was just my prejudice. I swallowed. You're an incredible person. You care for others with a sincere heart. I listened silently. Michael's hands trembled slightly beside me. Patricia lowered her gaze. Emma. She trusted me with all her heart. She was pure. Her voice choked. And I, instead of valuing that love, trampled on it. Tears ran freely down her face, regardless of the smeared makeup or the image she used to care for so meticulously. Maybe I don't even deserve to ask for forgiveness. A lump formed in my throat. But I will carry the guilt of having hurt that girl's heart for the rest of my life. Her voice was firm. I want to dedicate what's left of my life to repairing the damage I've done. For the first time, Melissa looked up and observed her mother. Her eyes were also filled with tears. The feelings of a daughter who lived trapped in her mother's expectations were there, close to the surface. Patricia sobbed. My whole life, I only cared about the opinions of others. Melissa pursed her lips. Even you, I treated you like a tool to feed my vanity. Patricia took a deep breath, her voice barely a whisper. Someone like me had no right to hurt my granddaughter. Silence. A silence that weighed heavily. But this time it also seemed to bring something else with it. Perhaps the beginning of something new. I spoke slowly. Patricia, I can forgive you. All eyes turned to me. But it will take time to rebuild trust, especially to heal Emma's wounds. Michael continued my words. Mom, let's start over. But this time without appearances. As a real family. He paused. For that, you need to change. Patricia bowed her head deeply. Remaining in that position, she whispered a small thank you. Her back seemed more fragile than ever. I have a proposal with concrete steps for reconciliation, George said, taking out some documents. It laid out a plan to restore the relationship step by step. The first meetings with Emma would be limited, only when she felt emotionally ready. Until then, only communication by letter would be allowed, once a month. Any direct contact or gift would have to be approved by us, her parents. Patricia would also have to attend therapy regularly. Melissa sighed. I need more time to repair my relationship with Mom. Her voice was firm, but for Emma's sake, she was willing to try. In her eyes there was determination. She was looking for a new family dynamic, something real. Patricia looked up humbly. I will appreciate this opportunity. For the first time, her voice didn't sound calculated but sincere. 6 months have passed. Patricia no longer attends church. Her usual seat in the Sunday service remains empty. Her former friends from the Women's Association avoid mentioning her. The curtains of her Beacon Hill mansion remain closed. The lights of her famous parties no longer shine. But the real change has begun. Every Tuesday afternoon, Patricia volunteers at a senior care center in the Boston suburbs. Her elegant Chanel suits have been replaced by simple uniforms. Her once impeccable hairstyle is now just a simple ponytail. Patricia's readings warm my heart, whisper the residents of the place. Her voice no longer has traces of that former arrogance, especially when she reads stories to the little ones. Her now serene expression seems illuminated by something new. Once a month, Patricia attends therapy at a private clinic. Little by little, she confronts herself. Now I understand, she says softly to her therapist. My obsession with perfection hurt those I loved most. In her lap, a diary filled with daily reflections. Her words show determination. She wants to live a life of atonement. The relationship with Melissa is still a work in progress. Her previously despondent daughter still avoids direct contact. But on her social media, the ostentation has disappeared. Her posts are now reflections on true family values. I've learned a lot from my mother's mistakes, she writes on her blog. Her honest, vulnerable words receive thousands of likes, but that's no longer the goal, just a side effect. George and Patricia have decided to live separately. Although they avoided divorce, George rents an apartment near his office and lives there. Occasionally, they have quiet conversations as he observes the changes in Patricia. Perhaps for both of them this distance is best for now. Meanwhile, Emma's drawings are slowly regaining their color. Not entirely yet, but bright rainbows and soft watercolors are beginning to spread little by little across her canvases. "Dad, Mom, I want to take classes at a new art school," Emma mentioned one day. It's the same art school to which Patricia secretly donates money. Emma doesn't know it, but her grandmother follows her talent from afar. Once a month, Patricia is allowed to see her granddaughter, although only indirectly. She sits on a park bench in the distance without approaching. From there she watches her smile. "Don't rush," I told Patricia. "Let's wait patiently for Emma's heart to heal." Recently, Emma mentioned her grandmother for the first time. "I wonder if Grandma has changed," she murmured, looking at the sky as we walked home from school. For a moment, a faint light of nostalgia shone in her eyes. Michael has also begun to slowly approach his mother. Every Thursday night after work, he goes to visit her for a while. Sincere conversations begin to emerge between them, the kind they could never have before. "Mom's perfectionism affected us all," Michael told me one night. "But now that she's aware of it, maybe we can build a new relationship." His words no longer showed hesitation. The flowers still arrive every week at the pediatric ward of St. Mary's Children's Hospital, but they are no longer expensive Casablanca bouquets. Now they are simple seasonal flowers with no sender's name. Patricia's change is evident, even in her choice of flowers. A new sketchbook rests on Emma's desk. On the cover, she has drawn a small rainbow, the logo of her new art school. Beyond that rainbow, Patricia continues to wait silently, hoping that her granddaughter's heart will clear with time. "Maybe there's no such thing as a perfect family," I told Michael one night. "But perhaps the fact that we can hurt each other and then forgive each other is what truly makes a family." Outside the window, the streetlights softly illuminated the city of Boston, as if silently watching the new steps we take forward as a family.